Hello, welcome to this update for North America. So we'll talk here about the severe weather plus the Eastern Pacific Hurricane Eric. So skip ahead to the severe weather heat wave section, the timestamps in the description. So let's start here with Hurricane Eric. So it made landfall as a Category 3 this morning. So it was Category 4 overnight, but then it weakened to Category 3 right before landfall. Now it's just a Category 1 spots of Mexico. It's already inland. There's still the hurricane warnings there. There's still some hurricane force winds ongoing as well. So let's see. Eric will continue to produce heavy rainfall across parts of southwest Mexico, mainly through tonight. Life-threatening flooding and mudslides are still likely, especially in areas of steep terrain. Hurricane force winds, especially in gusts, will continue for a couple more hours in the hurricane warning area. And the storm surge could still produce coastal flooding in areas of onshore winds. The surges will be accompanied by large and destructive waves. So please stay safe in those areas. There's like the rainfall estimate, still some 150 to 200 millimeters possible spots of Guerrero into Oaxaca, especially further north into Guerrero. There's like 100, 250 in the yellow, goes all the way to Michoacan and spots in Oaxaca, Guerrero. So please stay safe and 50 to 100 meters goes all the way to Colima. So stay safe in those areas, especially with the flooding plus landslides. There's still like some hurricane force winds there. So please stay safe in those areas. Be careful. And you can see here the probability of hurricane force winds is very confined in the center there, but still affecting a big area. So please stay safe in those areas. And here there's this odd area that just popped up now, 20% chance next 7 days. So offshore Central America, Southern Mexico, and air low pressure is forecast to develop early next week off the coast of Central America. Environmental conditions appear conducive for some gradual development. After that time, the system moves west northwestward off the coast of Central America and Southern Mexico. So this is more expected to stay further out to sea, but we'll keep watching just in case because it might form in a similar area of what Eric formed. So we'll keep watching, but still not a threat for now. The Atlantic is still quiet and the Central Pacific also. So be aware. There's Eric here. Since he made landfall, the structure has been getting more disorganized because it's already weakening. But this morning before it made landfall, it had like a very solid eye, that big look of a major hurricane. So it looked crazy. But now it's already mostly overland. There's still a section there in the Pacific too. So it still shows it as a category 2 and just weakening from now on. So we'll keep watching. And the models just die down by like inland Mexico. They don't go out much further. So this might weaken soon to a tropical depression in those areas. So shows here like especially by this evening or early Friday tomorrow, this might weaken to a tropical depression, but still that high chance of flooding there. So stay safe in those areas. There's here like for future systems, does show the Eastern Pacific, the GFS. And so there goes Eric, and later on, like let's just put the zeros. This goes and shows more moisture, especially in Central America. And the GFS develops another one on June 28th and goes into Guatemala. So, and then it tries to do something in the Gulf later. But let's not trust this yet because you know how the GFS is. So let's see the European because he was trying to develop something as well. So this goes, it tries to form something by June 29th in the Eastern Pacific, and it goes north and goes away from land. So the Europeans going away from land. But there's the Canadian shows like the seriously this goes, it shows a lot of moisture, and the Canadian forms another tropical storm. It goes into Mexico once again, a little bit further north than Eric did. But we have to watch this closely because if another storm goes into the same area, it'll be very problematic. But I don't think so. It might go further out to sea if it forms, but we'll keep watching. There's here the ensembles, the European, most of them stay out to sea, but some pass very close to Mexico too. They're like near Guerrero and those areas. So one goes further into Central America and like southern Mexico, but most just stay out to sea. So we'll keep watching those areas. And there's one, just one solo member showing something in the Atlantic, but that's like one solo member. So I don't expect anything in the Atlantic for at least for the next 2 weeks and 2 to 3 weeks. So we'll keep watching, but like if I put Eastern Pacific here, you have a bigger look. So the European mainly goes out to sea later, but some ensembles are closer to Mexico. So we'll keep watching. There's the GFS, it has a finger to in the southwestern Gulf, but like very little, and more support in the Eastern Pacific too. So we'll keep watching in those areas, especially like for Mexico in the Eastern Pacific. And the Atlantic, nothing, still nothing in the other areas. So we'll keep watching and be aware. Here shows the tropical storm probabilities. They pick up slightly again the Eastern Pacific next week to 30% in a few spots. By June 28th, close to 40%. 30 to 40 does grow on June 30th, still around 40% in the Eastern Pacific, but the Atlantic just like 5% or even less there in the southwestern Gulf, but very, very little. So we'll keep watching those areas and be aware. Just a quick recap for the rainfall in Mexico before we move to the severe weather. So still shows like those areas near Acapulco and further north to more than 194 millimeters, 230 in a few spots, 191 in Acapulco, more than 150. So please be careful. More spots in inland Mexico and into eastern Mexico near the Gulf as well. So please be careful in those areas. Some flooding, possible landslides in eastern Mexico, and more spots there in central southern Mexico, and also in western Mexico, the Pacific further north, some heavy rain. So be careful. Still more flash flooding possible in the eastern Pacific, in more spots there. So stay safe. In Guatemala shows more too, more than 100 millimeters in a few sections, and in Belize, some 123 in a few spots. So especially be careful, southern Belize. More spots in Nicaragua, some 200 millimeters in spots, and the Europeans all the way to 192 and close to 200 in a few spots. So this is looking concerning for some flooding. So be careful in those areas. Just until next Monday, already shows close to 105. Until next Tuesday, already to 210. So this is looking concerning in early next week, and later on still shows more rain throughout the end of June into July, but that's far out. So stay safe in those areas. There's the GFS still in Nicaragua. The GFS is all the way to 300. So if that happens, there might be some major flooding. The icon just on the coast of Nicaragua, more in Costa Rica, and in eastern Mexico. So let's just say in Spanish. Hola, ¿qué tal? Entonces, el huracán Erick está categoría 1 y ha caído esta mañana en Oaxaca como categoría 3. Entonces, y ahora está más cerca de Acapulco, unas zonas en Guerrero y Oaxaca como categoría 1, y aún hay unos vientos fuerza de huracán muy fuertes en las próximas horas. Vientos y lluvias fuertes con deslizamientos de tierra, inundaciones y todo. Entonces, en los próximos 5 días muestra más de 200 milímetros de lluvia en unas zonas en Guerrero y quizás en Colima también, y más zonas así, en Veracruz, más así centro al este de México y un poco más en Oaxaca, en algunas zonas también, más de 200 milímetros, pero más en el Pacífico, más al norte, más de 178 milímetros, unas zonas de 160, 148. Entonces, muchas precauciones con inundaciones más al este de México, cerca del Golfo, lluvia más de 200 milímetros, como 180, casi como algunas zonas de 200, pero muchísimas precauciones. Y hay un otro modelo que tiene como 300 milímetros al este de México y en el Golfo, y en el Pacífico más de 200. Entonces, muchas precauciones con inundaciones y estas lluvias y deslizamientos de tierra. Entonces, muestra en Belice también más fuerte, en Guatemala más de 100 milímetros, principalmente semana que viene en Nicaragua, más de 200 milímetros en Nicaragua, principalmente entre el lunes y el martes que viene y miércoles que viene más. Entonces, muchísimas precauciones. Costa Rica también más de 200 milímetros. Entonces, lluvia muy fuerte, precauciones. So stay safe in those areas. Still, those shock waves in the Atlantic near Trinidad and Tobago, slightest heavier showers in a few spots, in spots of Saint Lucia, into Barbados, a few showers in St. Vincent the Grenadines, and a few more showers in the Caribbean. Some passing thunderstorms, more concentration of thunderstorms further southeastern Caribbean. So be aware, more spots in Hispaniola, into Cuba, and the Cayman Islands, more rain as well. Spots of the Bahamas, a few showers, a storm or two, and yeah, and a shower or two in Bermuda too. But those fronts are further out into the Atlantic from you, so be aware. Some afternoon storms in Cuba and a few showers. And stay safe. And as you can see here in Canada, spots of the northern U.S. into northeastern Canada looks quite busy too. So let's see now. So today, there's this enhanced risk in a few spots of the Mid-Atlantic, as far north as New York, in a few spots of Virginia, into Maryland, including Washington, D.C., and more spots in New Jersey, too, in Pennsylvania. There's this light risk goes all the way into Canada and very deep there. So please be careful into Maine, like northern Maine. So please be careful. This margin risk from Oklahoma to Canada, literally, and spots of the southeast. There's this light risk in Minnesota and to Wisconsin, North Dakota, South Dakota too. So be careful those areas, and the severe threat extends into Canada too, because this light risk it doesn't end here. So please be careful in those areas. There's the marginal goes all the way to Montana. So the tornado threat is just 2% on the East Coast, and especially the mid-Atlantic and further north into the northeast into Canada. So be careful in those areas, a tornado or two possible in those areas there, the mid-Atlantic into the northeast. So be careful that the main threat is wind, especially there in the enhanced risk. So stay safe, some damaging wind gusts, a few spots in the mid-Atlantic, especially those stronger storms, some very damaging winds, and spots the plains as well into the Midwest. And the 15% goes all the way to northern Maine, so be careful there too. The slight risk is mainly for hail in the Midwest, northern plains, so be careful, some larger hail in those areas as well, and for further north into Canada too. And the marginal goes all the way to Colorado, so be aware some hail. Does show here is like severe thunderstorms expect across much the mid-Atlantic region today, and to a lesser extent into the Carolinas, parts of New England. Severe damaging wind gusts and primary concern. Isolated large hail threats should develop across parts of northern plains, the upper Midwest, primarily during the evening to overnight hours. So be careful in those areas. And yeah, so be careful. So the current expectations are for multiple cells clusters to initially form over the higher terrain, the Appalachians, Blue Ridge Mountains early to mid-afternoon, subsequently spread east northward to the coast through the afternoon and evening. Given the steep and low level lapse rates and enhanced low to mid-level flow associated with the upper trough, scared to potential numerous severe damaging winds, the primary threat with this convection that the greatest concentration of wind damage should be focused across parts of the Mid-Atlantic where the enhanced risk is. So stay safe in those areas. And yeah, and this link is in the description for you to check more updates later today and also to read more if you want here. So please be careful. And there, the northern plains and Midwest they talk about too. So day two does show this big slight risk throughout the northern plains to the upper Midwest, all the way from Montana to Michigan. So this marginal from Montana to Michigan as well. So please stay safe in those areas, especially there in the north and into Canada, because the severe threat will extend deep into Ontario, Manitoba, and Saskatchewan. So be careful. The tornado threat is actually 5% tomorrow, Minnesota into South Dakota and North Dakota, especially North Dakota and Minnesota, and the 2% as well. So be careful in those areas. A few tornadoes possible. And wind, it is actually hatched for some hurricane force winds possible for a few storms. So please stay safe. And this hatched kind of creeps into Canada as well, into Ontario. So be careful in those areas, southern Canada. There's the 5% as well. It goes all the way from Montana to Michigan. And hail also hatched for some very large hail, maybe larger than 2 inches, spots of North Dakota into South Dakota, Minnesota, Montana. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful. There's 15%, the 5%. So does show severe thunderstorms may develop Friday into Friday night across parts of northern plains, the upper Midwest. Significant severe weather is possible, so they do mention significant. So please be careful in those areas because especially the combination of those damaging winds plus the big hail and tornadoes. So be careful across Canada too. I encourage you to stay tuned to the forecast if you are there. So, unseasonably deep mid-level cyclone will move across the Pacific Northwest Friday. The Atlantic large-scale trough begins to impinge the central northern Great Plains. Downstream, the upper ridge will gradually shift eastward from the southern plains towards the lower Mississippi Valley. Surface low will deepen across the northern high plains, with increasing low-level moisture expanding near the east of the low and trailing dry-line surface trough, and also near the north of the warm front that will extend east northeast of the low. So please be careful in those areas. And most guidance suggests a mid upper level shortwave will emerge from the western trough and move across the northern plains sometime during the afternoon and evening. Though differences remain regarding the timing and amplitude of the shortwave. So the shortwave trough could aid some isolated storm that developed late afternoon to early evening, primarily near the north, the surface low, the warm front. Varying wind profile supports supercells with conditional threat for very large hail, severe gusts, and also some tornado potential if supercells become surface-based. So be careful in those areas. And here, take a look at this. Greater severe weather probabilities may be needed if confidence increases regarding the sufficient coverage of supercells or development of intense MCS. So there's still a chance of an enhanced risk tomorrow in case this changes. So we'll keep watching. There's Saturday still from Montana to New York, this marginal risk in those areas. So still some 5%. Does show strong to locally severe storms are possible Saturday from the northern Great Plains into the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. So be careful in those areas too. And yeah, so The confidence is quite low regarding details on severe storm potential Saturday, though conditional potentials remains evident along the periphery of the upper ridge. In MCS, they may develop late on day two Friday across parts of the northern Great Lakes at the start of the period, possibly posing a severe wind threat, and possible that the bulk of this MCS Ontario throughout the day, the remnant of the NCS or the MCS itself may move southeast or towards the lower Great Lakes, New York, Pennsylvania by the evening Saturday. This could pose severe threat if it does not become displaced from the buoyancy reservoir to its southwest. So be aware in those areas, and we'll keep watching for Saturday. Day 4 through 8, still nothing, but we do have this critical fire threat in a very big area across the southwest, especially for Friday. So just show Thursday today, spots of Utah into Nevada and Arizona, the critical, and also another critical in Nevada into California. There's this elevated as well, and elevated Central California. So stay safe in those areas, especially the critical. Don't burn anything near the wild areas, and be careful in case of any active fires, which there's one in New Mexico I just read about today. So stay safe in those areas. There's this very big critical Friday from Nevada all the way to New Mexico, and is elevated around it, and elevated Southern California too. So stay safe Friday in those areas. Be careful with any fires, but especially be careful not to cause any fires. So be smart and stay safe. There's still like, yeah, so let's see, a robust mid-level low will advance eastward across the northwest during the day, while a swath of strong deep layer westerly flow overspreads most of the western corners. In response, surface low pressure deepen over the northern Great Basin, promoting tightening pressure gradient across the Great Basin to the southwest. This large-scale patterns will support critical fire weather conditions across the Great Basin into the southwest. So stay safe in those areas, especially the dry fuels and those strong winds and low relative humidity will favor the spread of fires. So be careful. There's day 3 shows here possible day 3 and day 4 still across those same areas. So be careful that fire danger. And yeah, so here does show those storms, those areas first, like the east shows already these storms ongoing in Tennessee, spots of Alabama, Mississippi. They go, but these storms start in the Appalachians this afternoon. This goes there, shows further into the Mid-Atlantic this evening. Possible some damaging winds into Maryland, spots of Washington, and there into Virginia. New Jersey and Delaware as well. So this goes special about this moment in the evening spots of Delaware into New Jersey and Maryland. So be careful. Friday, this exits the coast. And still a storm or two Friday during the afternoon in the mid-south, a storm or two. But yeah, be careful in those areas, especially this afternoon in the mid-Atlantic. North Northeast does show here like this coast. There's a lot of rain further north in Canada, in Ontario and Quebec, because that low pressure. But those storms start in New York and Pennsylvania too. Some stronger storms. A few spots in there in Vermont as well. A few storms in New Hampshire. So this goes northern Maine shows some stronger storms there as well. So be careful in those areas, especially those ones in the Mid-Atlantic. So the show Cape actually shows a good amount of Cape into the northeast today, reaching as high as 2,500 joules per kilogram in New Hampshire into southern Maine. So there's a good amount. New York, about 2,000, 2,500. Does show more than 2,000 joules per kilogram in Maryland and Virginia with those storms too. So stay safe in those areas, especially in the Mid-Atlantic. So there's like max wind gusts does show like today, especially in Virginia, some higher gusts close to 70 mile per gust or even higher a few spots, and does show in the mid-Atlantic too, but this run of the HER has it further south into Virginia. But Friday tomorrow, the HER has some intense gusts in a few interior sections in the northeast. So we'll keep watching. The seriously HER head more into northern Virginia in the mid-Atlantic. This is also southern Virginia, but also further north. So stay safe, those storms. There's the chance for a few tornadoes and some hail too, especially wind today in those areas. So stay safe. And there's here like for the severe weather, if it shows something, does show like the updraft list in those areas. So especially shows spots of northern North Carolina into Virginia, but the HER's not too excited now as it was before. But does show more a few spots into Maryland, some tracks as well, and does show especially in the northeast. This is new, shows some spots on Maine, into Quebec, some more severe storms possible. So stay safe in those areas, and it shows it's starting tomorrow there in the northern plains. So if we click the 12Z, we'll be able to see tomorrow here as well. So shows like, especially into Minnesota, northern Wisconsin, and the UP of Michigan shows more, but especially the most severe ones from North Dakota into Minnesota, even Iowa, it shows a couple ones in Saskatchewan to Manitoba, some severe storms through more spots in Montana. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful, especially hail and severe wind and tornadoes. So be aware. Talking about tornadoes, let's see if it shows something that does significant tornado parameter. So for this evening, does show spots of the mid-Atlantic. Not really much. There's the 2% there, but it doesn't really show much. There's this area in the plains, but there won't be any storms today in those areas, just tomorrow. So don't get fooled by this because most storms will be further east today. But does show in the afternoon a parameter to remain, a few spots, even Connecticut, but very low parameters in general. The chance is very low for tornadoes. But Friday at 22Z, for example, when those storms start, the array has as high as like 3 to 4 tornado parameters there in South Dakota into Minnesota. So this is hinting at an elevated environment for tornado potential if those supercells are able to become surface based and everything. So we gotta watch this closely. So there's later in the evening by Tuesday, and I don't know what the HER is doing here, but it has like 9.5 tornado parameters in Minnesota. If this happens, it will be totally dangerous. But with the SPC, I'm not seeing so many indications that this will happen. So sometimes these models tend to show crazy things at once, and then the next run is already nothing. But we'll keep watching because if this climbs to like 9.5, we really have to be concerned in those areas. But we'll keep watching. So the 14Z herd doesn't go as far out as Friday afternoon, so we can't see much here. But we'll make another video tomorrow for sure to update on this. But be aware, those areas. And here for Canada, let's see if they have something. So the show today, Thursday, it is an elevated chance of severe weather, so it's high here. There's in English and in French too, in case you are there and you don't speak English because I know, especially in Quebec, there they speak mostly French. So here shows there those areas, Manitoba into Saskatchewan, this orange this afternoon. This basically follows the line of the slight risk that they have in the U.S. So it's very similar. And then a brief chance for a funnel cloud or two in Alberta, as they show there, but especially like in area A, as you can see the area here, so 90 to 110 kilometer per gusts potential those storms, 4 to 6 centimeter hail, and a tornado or two possible in area A. The area B, many sun damage winds and some hail. So please be careful. Spots southern Canada there. Does show night one. During the night, still some storms, but not as crazy. And day two, especially another high chance of severe weather spots of especially Manitoba in shows Saskatchewan. So does show again some 90 to 110 km per gust those storms, 4 to 6 centimeter hail, and also some tornadoes possible for Friday in those areas. So stay safe if you are there in southern Canada. So be careful. And here they have some explanations too. So and some heavy rain possible for a few of those storms too. So stay safe. And here, I'll put this link in the description for you as well. So there's in Ontario here, still a severe storm or two in eastern Ontario, like southeastern Ontario. Even shows a small tornado threats, some gusty winds and some hail. Day two for Friday shows like a general risk of storms, but some might be stronger too. And day three, still nothing crazy. But Quebec for today, they do have this, I'll call it Canadian enhanced risk. So this high chance of strong storms spots of southern Canada, especially into like southern Quebec, because New Brunswick doesn't really show that much, and spots of southeastern Quebec. And Montreal is actually in the moderate section. So be careful in those areas, especially on the area C, because the orange is C here. So C, so 90 to 110 km per gust, 2 to 3 centimeter hail, and 50 to 70 millimeters of heavy rain possible, and also a tornado or two. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful. And actually, in British Columbia, we do have a chance for a few stronger storms. So be aware as well in those areas. So now it's heat wave time. Let's see what's happening. So shows like I'll start with the heat risk and then the temperatures. So shows like still in the southwest, the areas of major to extreme heat risk in those areas still. So stay safe in those areas. Shows in South Dakota and spots on the plains, Nebraska, a few moderate and some major on the East Coast area. But Friday, this upper ridge starts going further east with this heat dome in spots of the plains into the Midwest. So shows like spots of the Central Plains, major heat risk for Friday afternoon. A few spots extreme in southern Arizona and New Mexico still, and a few spots in the South major. But Saturday, this major area grows a lot in the Midwest, so major to extreme heat risk in the Midwest and in the plains, especially in Nebraska, into Kansas and Iowa, the extreme heat risk for Saturday. So stay safe in those areas. Saturday shows Sunday here. This grows more in Illinois, into Wisconsin, Iowa, more extreme heat risk into Missouri and spots in Nebraska too. So please stay safe in those areas in Michigan and stay safe. I mean, by drink a lot of water, stay cool, have proper cooling because the overnight lows won't be that low, so it will still remain quite hot. So stay safe in those areas. There's next Monday, the 23rd, even a bigger area of extreme heat risk goes all the way from Iowa to New York. So please be careful in those areas. into Kentucky, a few spots in Tennessee, especially in Indiana, into Ohio, into Missouri, more spots of extreme. So stay safe. Tuesday, this gets even crazier. So spots of Washington, Baltimore, into Maryland, and Virginia, shows more spots Delaware, even creeping to New York, some extreme. So please be careful. As far south as Mississippi, a few spots, but major goes all the way to Maine, the extreme, the Midwest. And next Wednesday, the 25th, does show still the extreme in the Midwest to the east. And the West does quiet down some. So be aware those areas, especially like from the plains towards the East Coast next week or so. So here going back here just to see if there's any excessive rainfall. So still shows West Virginia, Pennsylvania, a few spots in the mid-Atlantic, some flash flooding possible. So be careful in those areas. Shows there a few spots from Arkansas and all the way to Maine, the marginal risk, western Florida, and the northern plains. Day two shows like Montana to the upper Midwest and spots in the northern plains because of those storms. Day three shows further northern Montana and northeast. Stay safe. Day four, nothing. But day five, there's already this light risk creeping to the plains and all the way to Texas, the marginal. So we'll keep watching. Day one through seven shows basically like those storms in the Midwest, close to 5 inches in a few spots. There in Canada, close to 100 millimeters in Alberta. And those storms, Western Florida, a few storms in Florida. And I don't know if you are seeing what I'm seeing, but I'm seeing like a corridor of rain going all the way from Mexico to Canada. So this might be being influenced by the remnants of Hurricane Erick and like the upper ridge that's there. So the rain from the remnants of the hurricane might just curve around the high pressure and bring more storms. So this is an interesting feature here. So keep watching. Day one through five, not as much, but already some in the Midwest, those areas. So this is stay safe, be careful, and especially let's see if they updated the key messages. So first, significant heat wave of this season. The highest temperatures of the season so far expected to begin Friday across the plains, then expand this weekend across parts of the Midwest into the Great Lakes. The extreme heat is expected to shift and persist through the Ohio Valley, much of the East Coast late this weekend into much next week. Extremely dangerous levels of heat likely. The heat like to reach dangerous levels over much of the central and eastern U.S., particularly concern exists in the Ohio Valley, the eastern Great Lakes, interior south, much of the East Coast, where the heat will be more persistent. Numerous daily record highs and warm lows are likely. Light winds, sunny days, and lack of overnight cooling with significant increased heat danger. So the risk of extreme heat persist into next week. So while the highest temperatures are likely this weekend into the first half of next week, but the moderate risk greater than 5% of extreme heat continues into late next week as well. And especially the Carolinas, mid-Atlantic, more spots. So increased impacts during outdoor activity. Be careful, proper hydration and cooling, and shorter activities to be careful. So stay safe in those areas, be aware. And the hazards here mainly showed the extreme heat in those areas. And yeah, so be careful, some high winds, spots of the west as well. And I don't know what's happening here. There's this brown area too. It's brown because it's green plus red, so some heavy rain and extreme heat. So yeah, stay safe in those areas. Now, here for the heat itself, let's take a look. So I like their map here because it's like a blend of models. So it does show still Thursday, like right now, this afternoon, spots of the southwest to 115 degrees, 113 more spots in Southern California and spots in Arizona, but still close to 115 in Arizona. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful. Some 90s across the plains, right? Some 90s on the East Coast. There's like regional, just to see further here, even to like a few spots might feel like 116 in a few spots. So please stay safe. Some hundreds in the valleys in Utah, more spots in New Mexico as well. So be careful in those areas. There's day one during the night, so like Friday morning, shows slightly colder in the northwest, some 30s in the higher terrain, and shows already Friday afternoon more than 106 there in the plains in those areas, so 102, and so be careful there. It's still 109 in Arizona and California, and more 90s across the south. So be careful with the heat in the plains tomorrow. But shows these below average temperatures, some 30s there in the mountains, in the higher terrain. So be aware, slightly colder there. But the overnight lows, there's even like 79 to 80, 78. So some 80 degrees during the night is still very hot. So that's what they said on the heat risk as well. So stay safe in those areas. There's like for Saturday afternoons to 104 still in the plains, 102 to 104, still 105 in Arizona, a few spots, maybe even to 105, 106 in southern Nebraska. So stay safe in those areas, but still those colder temperatures in the northwest, so 90s further into the southeast and spots the mid-Atlantic array. But Sunday during the night into Sunday morning shows those colder temperatures on the west, even some 20s in the mountains, some 30s. So be careful, but still shows some 79 to 80 there in the Midwest plains. So still hot during the night. Be careful. And Sunday afternoon, still to 100 in the plains, the upper Midwest, some 90s into Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, and as far south as Florida, some 90 spots on the East Coast, sorry, to 97, and be careful, spots in the Southwest still to 101. So yeah, shows during the night into Monday morning, still some 30s in the Rockies. There are still colder and still some 70s in those areas in the Midwest during the night. So shows like why did I click day four again? So here, day five, Monday afternoon, there's this whole area further east into the 90s, as far north as Maine. Some 80s in Maine, some 90s in Vermont, a few spots there, even to 100 in North Carolina, close to 100 in Virginia, even some 99 in Maryland, 97 into Pennsylvania. So stay safe, be careful. Some 100s in the deep southwest, some 80s in Washington, but still cold in the Rockies. And so yeah, stay safe for Monday still. There's still Tuesday morning, slightly colder in the Rockies, this 70s, a few spots in the Midwest, and all the way to the Northeast, 70s during the night. So stay cool, be careful. There's Tuesday, still shows close to 100, a few spots in the Mid-Atlantic, some 90s, as far north as Maine to 95, some 90s in the south as well, and still to 100 in the southwest, 104 in Arizona, some 91 in Washington. So stay safe in those areas. Does show here the Mid-Atlantic, some 99 Virginia to 100 in Maryland, even to 97 New York, so 99. So stay safe. This is Tuesday. Monday was even more than that, more hundreds there. So please be careful. There's Tuesday, Wednesday morning, still cold in the Rockies, a few spots. Those 70s still dominate during the night. And Wednesday afternoon, still nothing here. So we'll see as we get closer. But stay safe. Those high winds in the interior west, in those areas in the west, be careful of the fire dangers. Some high winds into eastern Canada as well, in the northeastern west with those storms, especially the mountains in New Hampshire. So be careful those areas, and the European model does have still by like Tuesday, Wednesday, it still has some very high temperatures by the middle of next week. So in Fahrenheit here, the European shows next Wednesday, the 25th, to 106 in South Carolina, North Carolina to 104, Maryland to 100. So it still shows very hot next week. Into Thursday, slightly better, but still close to 100 in North Carolina, more spots in the plains, some 90s. So still very hot later next week. So stay safe in those areas. Now, first, let's see northern Mexico still shows to 44 degrees Celsius today, Thursday, a few spots there. So be careful still that heat in Mexico. Slightly hot in spots of Cuba, some 30s, and like shows Thursday into Friday. During the night, slightly less in the mountains there, in Mexico and Guatemala. But Friday afternoon, still very hot northern Mexico, spots of northwestern Mexico, especially. Saturday, slightly less, but still to 40 degrees in a few spots. Sunday, still northeastern Mexico, more spots there. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful. In Canada, there's those below average temperatures further west in Canada, but those above averages start building in the southeastern part of Canada. So this goes shows this afternoon, today, this is higher southern Saskatchewan, and still kind of cold northern Nunavut spot, northern Quebec. So still BBR Friday, this goes shows like some -1 spots of northern Nunavut, northwestern territories, and into the Rockies there. But Friday grows hotter into Manitoba, some 30 degrees, more spots into Ontario, some 20s. So this goes during the night, kind of colder in the west again, a few spots in the north, quite chilly and near the Atlantic coast. But Saturday afternoon, already warmer in Ontario and still hot in spots the south. But Saturday morning does show the Rockies, those colder temperatures, further northeastern Canada, spots in Quebec, northern Nunavut. So Sunday this grows and starts getting much hotter, southern Ontario to like 33 degrees Sunday, a few spots central Quebec, southern Quebec, and be careful. The heat risk in those areas, if they had a map for Canada, you would definitely show some major heat risk as well and close to extreme. So be aware, especially Sunday into next Monday, shows in southern Ontario still. This goes and colder there further west in the mountains and spots northern Quebec still colder. But Monday afternoon does show this heat across most of southern Canada, southeastern Canada, some 32 to 35 in Ottawa, in Toronto more than 27. So stay safe. Monday, this goes into Tuesday, slightly better, but still the southernmost portions hot. So Tuesday, Wednesday, still very warm, southern Ontario, and this gets better later, but still hot. So stay safe in those areas, and still pretty warm in Alaska this afternoon, some 70s to low 80s Fahrenheit in those central valleys. So still pretty warm, but a few spots colder during the night in the mountains, but still in Yukon, pretty warm as well until Saturday. So still shows Saturday, Sunday warm in the northwest there during the day. So be careful those areas. The rain accumulation does show there from Thursday today, not all the way to next Tuesday, shows spots of southern Alberta to like 132 millimeters with those storms. So be aware, more spots in Alberta. So stay safe. So especially in eastern Canada, those storms there into Labrador and Quebec, some 106 in eastern Quebec to 105, more there southern Quebec to 77, even to 106 in a few spots in Quebec. So be careful next 5 days in those areas. So the GFS as well, slightly less than the GFS in Alberta, but it does have a lot in eastern Quebec. The icon too, so stay safe. The icon has a lot in Alberta, Saskatchewan. So be careful in those areas, and especially right now. So now it's Thursday, the 19th. The heaviest of the rain is now moving into eastern Canada. So today and Friday, tomorrow, there in Quebec, into Labrador, some heavy storms, likely with strong winds and in those areas of eastern Canada. And there's the slight tornado threat today, but maybe some hail, a storm or two. But as these rain clusters there, especially strong winds, the greatest threat. But this does show some snow in Labrador. So the European has some snow in Labrador and in Quebec as well. But then Friday evening, those severe storms in the northern plains there, and more rain spots of Montana into Western Canada. But Saturday does show the European keeps this MCS alive into Ontario until Saturday afternoon. And then this goes shows more in Manitoba and Ontario Sunday, possibly. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful. Just getting the hurt again here. So shows like those areas Friday shows a few storms, but especially the HER shows the storm starting North Dakota into Minnesota. So it does want an MCS into Wisconsin and further it diminishes later. But the HER starting the storms a little bit too far east. It doesn't have that much in Montana, but it does have some spots of southern Manitoba too. Friday, a few spots there, but especially Saturday, the 21st, you want more in the northeast, like the Great Lakes, more spots further west. So we'll keep watching those areas, but be aware. There's snow here too, those spots there. So 5 days still shows a lot of snow possible into Alberta, those areas in 72 centimeters in the Rockies in Alberta, more spots into British Columbia, a little bit in the mountains in British Columbia, but especially there in Alberta, even to 83 centimeters on the European. The GFS also to 31 centimeters, for further north to 41. The icon more confined in the mountains to some 50, even to 59 centimeters. So be aware those areas. Be careful. There's here too in spots of northern Montana into Idaho. The European model does show extreme northern Montana to 38 inches next 5 days. So there might be a lot. The GFS just 13 inches, the icon 3 inches. So it's a very big difference. But all the three models have snow of some sorts. So shows in Idaho some 3 inches, a few spots in Oregon as well, into Washington some 3 inches, Wyoming some 2 inches, more spots there in Idaho. So stay safe in those areas. That's snow too. Does show northern Ontario a centimeter or two, and still northern Quebec that's snow possible. So here does show again spots of like some 20 to 30 centimeters northern Quebec, spots in Labrador still some 5 centimeters, 12. So still be aware. In a few spots in northern Nunavut or some light drizzles in other areas. So stay safe in those areas. Be careful now. Our last thing before this gets too long, those winds does show strong gusts central southern Caribbean, those areas, and in Mexico the hurricane. So Thursday, Friday along the western U.S. near the west coast as well, and the low pressure in southeastern Canada today. So this goes strong winds across the northeastern U.S. 40 to 50 mile per gusts. Friday afternoon, this does grow a lot in the Rockies and Great Basin. Shows even to like more than 50 mile per gust in a few spots. Friday in the northeast into eastern Canada, some strong gusts in Newfoundland into Labrador, a few spots in New Brunswick, but even to 8 km per gust in Newfoundland. Shows more central plains Saturday and into the Great Lakes. So this goes and still shows strong winds in the northeast, possible Sunday, and still in the Great Plains by Sunday. More spots, the GFS kind kind of in the Great Plains, but much weaker. It shows Monday, still a few spots to watch. This next Wednesday shows in Eastern Canada some strong winds as well. So keep watching those areas and be aware those winds, the Caribbean to the small craft advisors. So be aware those areas, still some dust, a few spots in the Caribbean, and still remember like the visibility and the air quality and the sunsets. So be aware and stay safe.